but I do want to give everyone an update on what's going on. So I thank you all for having me back. It's always fun to come and see everybody. And since the last time I came, and I think that was last summer-ish, probably right a little before the primary, a lot has changed in Manatee County, and you've all seen that, and you were all a part of that, instrumental part in what we've all collectively done in Manatee County. For years, of my time on the board, you didn't get a say in how your government was run. You didn't have elected officials, especially at the county level, which I can speak to, that gave you the time of day. They gave you time of day once every 4 years. Once every 4 years, they were your best friend and pretended to care about anything you cared about. But once they got elected, they stopped caring about you. You got run out of chambers. You got ignored. Your emails just got single sentences saying, "Thank you for your email. I've read your email." This board worked with the public, with the people, with the citizens, with the Patriots of Manatee County to take back your government, not for us, but for you. This board came in saying, we're going to give all of you a voice. We're going to listen to your concerns and do within our power what we can do. And that's not me. That's the collective board of county commissioners. And I will preface this based upon the conversation earlier in the meeting. I am, in fact, speaking only on my behalf, not on behalf of the entire board of county commissioners. That's the Commissioner Dr. Bob McCann's statement, I have to say. So now everything I say is for me and not for everyone else. However, I do believe this board as a whole, whether or not I can speak on behalf of 6 other people, are rowing in the same direction. And that, I think, is the biggest difference you're going to see on this board. And I talk about that all over the place. Every year I've been on this board, there's been infight. Every year on this board, other board members have hated each other. And then this predates me. This is with Joe and Robin and Carol and you name it. There's always been infighting, and that's caused a lot of political tension that sometimes many times resulted in unintended consequences for the citizens of Manatee County. There was spiteful votes. There was backstabbing. But what you're seeing on the board is we've had a lot of 4-3 votes. We've had 5-2 votes. We've had 6-1 votes. What you haven't had is people walk off of that dais not still being cordial to each other and professional to each other. And I think that's the biggest dynamic change that's going to benefit Manatee County, because we're all willing to work with each other. There's going to be different groups of 4-3. There's no longer a majority board. There's no longer a 6-1 board. There's 7 independently minded people who are proactively trying to learn what's in the best interest of Manatee County. Who are proactively coming out and speaking to all of you and bringing what they learned back to this board. And everyone on this board is giving each other the courtesy of being able to relay that information. And I'll give you an example. Like 2 weeks from now, I believe, correct? It wasn't on your sheet, but Commissioner Carol Phelps, the new commissioner for District 1, is going to be here speaking to you. I don't know the last time you had a District 1 county commissioner come to the Patriots and speak to you. They may have spoke at you, but I don't know when the last time they spoke with you. Dr. Bob McCann, commissioner for District 5, new commissioner. He has a town hall tomorrow at Lakewood Ranch Library at 5:30 or 6 p.m. or whatever he's having. 6 p.m. So he'll be out listening to your concerns for District 5. Carol had a town hall 2 weeks ago up in Rocky Bluff. Tal Siddiq, new commissioner for District 3, took over for Kevin Van Ostenbridge. He's having a town hall on February 13th at the Allen Branch Library. All of these commissioners are out meeting with people. It used to be I was the only one having town halls and trying to relay that to people. You are seeing this board collectively go out and meet with people, learn things, especially the new commission. There's a lot to learn. You don't know what you don't know until you get there. And then all of a sudden you're like, what did I get myself into? Like you campaign on all I care about is development. I'm going to stop development. And they're like, oh, that's like 10% of the job. Like now you have to figure out where speed bumps are supposed to go and where this nonprofit money is supposed to be. And we have to figure out this homeless ordinance. And we have to figure, like, this is stuff that normal people don't come onto the dais fully understand. You have to drink from a fire hose because you're expected to be productive for the citizens of Manatee County day one. And I am very proud of all 3 of the new commissioners because I've seen all 3 of them tirelessly work to try to learn how this county works. I mean, I see Carol at the office building every single day, meeting with staff, learning things. I see Commissioner McCann learning things and meeting with people here, and meeting with people out in the community. He's out meeting with the developers right now just to figure out how he can work with them to make sure that they're doing things sensibly. Commissioner Siddiq is constantly out learning things. I'm very proud of this new board. I think this new board is going to represent you well. I think this new board is going to work very well. And you're seeing some of this in the way we are working with the public. Some of the changes we've made just in 2025, as Glenn will allude to. We've changed the time you can speak. Now we have public comment at the beginning and the end of the meeting to give everyone more time. Glenn will attest to the fact that I've been very lenient on the 3-minute limit, not as lenient as Jack apparently is on your 2-minute limit, but a reasonable amount of leniency to allow people to get their words out. I think it's important. If you come all the way down to downtown to speak your mind, if it's 3 minutes and 10 seconds or 3 minutes and 30 seconds, you should be afforded a little bit of time to finish your thoughts. We're giving people 5 minutes to speak at quasi-judicial hearings now, which are land development hearings, to give people more time to bring maps and really state their case. We're bringing back the advisory boards, giving them time. We had Xavier Bailey today come on behalf of the Children's Services Advisory Board and give the board an update. In past years, the advisory boards were pushed aside. They were left to die effectively without enough members for a forum to even conduct business. And we're bringing them back and giving them a voice so they could speak. Glenn, after being so, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? You're so fed up. Well, I'll use that. You're so fed up with the advisory boards. You were on the advisory board for years with me, and you dropped off that advisory board because it was pointless. Now you've applied, and you were just appointed back onto the Affordable Housing Advisory Board because you see we're going to give you an opportunity to speak your mind. We're going to give you an opportunity to make policy decisions on this board. So I think collectively this board is steering in the right direction for your benefit. I think there's a lot of policy changes we're going to make. I think you're going to appreciate those. I think you're going to have a say in those. Rather than go through some of them, I'd rather just open up for Q&A and find out what policy issues you would like to talk about. But I implore you, reach out to your commissioners, whether it's a district commissioner wherever you live, or one of your at-large commissioners, myself or Commissioner Bearden, or even any of the other commissioners. They're more than willing to speak to you now. We're making a proactive attempt at being more responsive to the citizens of Manatee County. The better your voice is heard, the more we can use your opinions, your voice, what you want to see in Manatee County to change policy for the better. Because a lot of things broke these past 4+ years in Manatee County. It's going to take some time to get it back. You have a board who's working very, very hard to fix what's broken and then start moving all of us and moving Manatee County forward into the future. And I think you're going to see much brighter days in Manatee County, brighter days that are for the people of Manatee County and not for a select few people that buy their way onto a government to dictate how your life and your quality of life or lack thereof is going to be into the future. So I'm not going to keep talking because you all have things you want to talk about, and I'd rather have time for long-form, thoughtful answers for you. So I will open this up to Q&A and answer any questions you may have about any policies we have passed or any policies we're thinking about passing or anything you would like us to pass. So with that, I will just open this up.
Hey, Dr. Kruse, George, how many more car washes and storage buildings do we expect to see in 2024?
Louder, please.
How many
I heard you already the question. I'll do my best to repeat the question. The question was, how many more car washes and self-storage facilities are we expected to see in 25? I'll answer that 2 ways. The first way is we have zoning codes. Both car washes and self-storage facilities have approached this board in the past couple of years looking to expand the zoning rights for both of those, along with a few other things like car dealerships, to allow them to be as of right on more zoning designations. We've refused that every time. So what you are seeing built is only being built on places where they're already allowed to build as zoning allows. And we have very limited restrictions for private property rights to restrict someone building as of right. That said, we have not seen nor approved a car wash in over a year. That entire concept has kind of been diluted now. There's so many of them. The last one was down on University, I want to say early 2024, and that one was actually rejected first, and they came back with a whole different plan to finally get it approved. So you're not seeing the car washes like we were a few years ago. As for self-storage, I believe we've approved one self-storage in the past 24 months. That was on Fort Hammer, and that was already zoned for commercial in the first place. It was just a change in site plan in terms of what they were doing. So we have not been seeing a lot of self-storage or car washes. I think they've kind of been built out. I do not anticipate seeing many more of them. That's not to say we won't, and we'll assess all of them based upon the zoning and the requests that they have.
I've got a question for you. I saw an article today. The headline was talking about what are the 10 biggest zip codes in the country where people are moving in. And I think like 6 of them were in Texas, one was in South Carolina, one was in maybe Alabama or somewhere. But Parrish was actually one of the top 10 zip codes, they said, where people are moving in. And when I saw that, I thought, I don't know if that's good or bad. You know, to be that high up in the whole country for people coming in. So I do think there's a feeling that development is really, really moving along big, and that sort of confirmed it to me that at least in the Parish area, it's going wild. So just, I guess my question is, do you feel like the commission has a pretty good handle on where we're headed in the future?
Sure, that's a broad question. Yeah.
Are you gonna build a wall?
We are not going to build a wall. You're talking about, what was it, 34219? Yes. That was one of the top 10 zip codes. I guess there's two ways you can look at that. Well, way more than two ways, but I'll start off with people can live any place they want in the country. You have a lot of people moving out of California, moving out of Illinois, moving out of New Jersey, New York. People are relocating to places like Texas and Florida. If you want to look at it one way, you could say there's something to be said for being one of the 10 most desirable places to live at this point in time, where people are coming here because they perceive a quality of life with beaches and with amenities and with parks and with a lifestyle and with a community that they want to live in when they can literally move any place they want. And they're voluntarily moving here. So there is something to be said for that. People usually look for a place where they feel comfortable, and I think Manatee counties make people feel comfortable. I can solve that by making your life miserable. Then nobody will want to live here. We can jack our taxes up, shut down the beaches again. We can, cut back on amenities. I don't think anyone wants that. We're trying to improve the quality of life. But yes, Parish is seeing the biggest uptick, at least in our area, because that's where the growth was. That's where the land was. That land has been zoned, for the most part, way predated me. A lot of developers came in and rezoned whole swatches of land forever ago. North River Ranch was zoned a decade ago. And that's got 5,000 homes. I mean, that's a year's worth of home building alone for the entire county in one area. But there is a lot. But it's a push by this board to make sure growth going forward is paying for itself and is more thoughtfully done. February 19th, 2 weeks from tomorrow, we're having a work session, our first real work session with this board relative to growth and development in the comprehensive plan. So this has been a long time coming. It was supposed to be tomorrow. There's a conflict. It got moved. But February 19th, if you want to come by, it's open to the public. It's also going to be live streamed and on video. We're going to be talking about different ways we can do this. I've been banging this drum for a couple of years. We need to increase impact fees to 100% so we can cover the cost of the roads and the bridges and the parks and the libraries. I also think if you increase impact fees to 100%, you're going to see slower growth because you're increasing fees by about $15,000 per home, which is inevitably going to slow down a little bit of home construction. I'm pushing for 100% facility investment fees. Those are similar to impact fees, but they're for utilities. Everyone who talks about how, when are we going to run out of water? Well, our ability to create more capacity for water is based upon our collection of facility investment fees. Also grossly outdated in terms of what we're collecting. I've been trying to get that study done for about 3 years with a board who has refused to even conduct a study because they didn't want to see what the numbers were. This board is fully ready to go on both impact fees and facility investment fees to increase them to 100%. We have a timeline for impact fees. We've got attorneys working on it. We have a consultant working on it. If we hit our timeline, and we have really pushed to get an aggressive timeline, we will have fully funded impact fees to 100% of a new study of exactly the cost of growth. We will have that fully approved before summer recess this year. And those fees will start getting paid by September of this year. It's 90 days. That can equate to over $80 million of additional revenue stream per year, just by increasing those fees. Then we have the facility investment fees. We're also talking about the future development area boundary, which currently is Bourne-side and it cuts up. Not supposed to build east of that. We've put together a policy that allows you to build east of it, and that happened 5 times in the past couple of years. This board has voted to effectively rescind that effective immediately. We still have to go through the process, but we worded the motion to alert developers, do not present us. We are not going to approve any more projects east of the FDAB line. We're rescinding that policy probably in the next 30 days, and that'll be gone. But you're not going to see any more development opportunities east of the FDAB line. This board's working on stormwater. We're working on opportunities to fix the flooding that we saw predominantly through Debbie, but through all of our storms. We're looking at revenue streams. We're looking at the $252 million of the block grant that Glenn mentioned to purchase land and put retention ponds in to capture water, to clean out the culverts and the canals and the ditches to make sure that any future development that does occur is not going to cause undue harm to neighbors by adding additional flooding concerns to it. And we're looking at a lot of other creative things that we'll be talking about on the 19th. To go back to your question here about how do we manage this growth. I proposed informally, but we'll propose it more formally. Sarasota County has something in place. All of our votes are regular majority. You need 4 votes out of 7. Bigger projects need comprehensive plan rewrites. To get a comprehensive plan rewrite, that's where you see the East River ranches, all the rezonings. Sarasota has it where you need a supermajority vote to change the comprehensive plan. So that means you need a supermajority vote for any major rezones. I proposed Manatee County look at doing that here, which would then require a developer to convince 5 out of 7 board members before they can get a rezone, which puts that barrier much, much higher, especially in light of all the 4-3 votes. So there's a lot of things going on. I mean, the short answer is this board is willing to turn over every stone and look at every option. We've got staff looking through the other 66 counties for best practices, everything from citizens' bills of rights to how we're going to handle stormwater, to how we're going to handle future growth, what we're going to do about minimum lot sizes, minimum parking, to maybe encourage people to put homes scattered throughout in smaller places, which are going to compete with those bigger developments out east, which will take away some of the demand for those. We're going to turn over every stone we possibly can to make sure development that does happen in Manatee County is more thoughtful and less destructive than it has been these past few years.
A while ago, we had another commissioner out there talking to us, and there was a lady from Parrish, and she asked him about this metro bubble that they were building in Parrish. He knew nothing about it. She had explained to him what the metro bubble was that they're putting in Parrish.
What are you talking about metro developments?
Yes, they call it the metro bubble.
I've never heard of that. So what's your question about it?
Well, what I'm saying is everything that's being built, and he mentioned too a lot of the lawsuits that the county was paying $1 million, $10 million for all these lawsuits from these builders that are suing the county and they're winning. So why not take that money that they're paying these lawsuits and buy some of this open land? I'm originally from Connecticut, and that's what they did in Connecticut, to keep these lands open. We live in Palmetto on Bayshore Road. On Bayshore Road 41, they put these little signs up, yellow and green signs, and when they propose buildings, where they're going to be built. This is on the corner, 41 and Bayshore. Now, I go that route every day, 10 times a day. Finally, I'm riding. I look in the grass, and I see this sign. So I told my sister. My sister calls up.
I think I answered your question.
Okay, my sister calls up. What I'm saying is, these little signs, these proposals are what they want to build. They hide them in the grass. So when she called to say, when is this meeting so we can get together? Oh, what did they tell me?
It happened that day.
I haven't heard the first question from Matt.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. Let me go with this. Okay. Metro is a project being built up in Moccasin Wallow. It's being built very close to I-75. It's inside the FDAB line. It was approved 8 years ago. They're actively building it out right now. It's a development in an area where it was already zoned 2F3, which allowed 3 units per acre. I believe they're building less than 2 units per acre. They're building in accordance with what their zoning allowed them to build from the start. We have limited recourse to that. What you're proposing, and then different people have different opinions on this, is I use your tax dollars and your tax dollars and your tax dollars to compete with developers on market rate land and purchase land that they're buying for millions of dollars per acre because they can monetize it by putting homes and commercial on there. And you want me to take all these tax dollars, they're out in District 3 and down by the airport and out by Mayaca to buy land up on Moccasin Wallow because somebody's neighbor doesn't want it.
To stop them from doing this? I mean,
Nothing is the answer. All you can do is more thoughtfully do it. Again, the answer, at no point in time is my answer, and I'm sorry if you disagree, at no point is my answer going to be to stop somebody from using their private property that's already been zoned to allow them to do so because somebody doesn't want them to do it. That's just as unfair as if I had an empty lot in my subdivision next to me, and I said, my kids like camping there, so please stop that family from building their home because I'm the neighbor and I don't want that home. That's going to be a distraction
I
for
would
me.
feel that way if I was in real estate. Aren't you in real estate?
I'm in finance. But,
I
Okay, well, I'm going to finish answering your question. The point is, we are working to more thoughtfully do it. Like I said, if they had to pay $25,000 a home instead of $10,000 a home in impact fees, maybe they would have slowed down that development, or maybe we would have $15,000 more per home to properly build out moccasin wallow and the sidewalks and the safety and the intersections ahead of time, and that would have caused less disruption for the neighbors in the surrounding area. Put a couple of extra parks and green space in there. So I don't have an answer for you. Your proposal was the county go out and buy land like Connecticut does, and that keeps people from building because I'm supposed to front run every Neal community and Medallion home and buy up all of their land for absolutely no reason other than to stop development. But I don't print money. I have your money. Now, if I'm going out and buying that land, I'm using your tax dollars instead of providing you services or buying actually environmentally sensitive, beneficial land. Like we just purchased a bunch of land by Emerson Point, which is going to create a beautiful preserve. We did that with LMAC environmental land money at a fraction of the cost of development land. If I went out and bought the Metro property, where they probably paid $50 million for that land, that's your money. And the only people benefiting are like Del Webb and like 3 other neighborhoods that are inconvenienced by it. But you could live out in Anna Marie Island. You could live down in Bayshore Gardens. I'm still using your tax dollars. That's not fair to all of you. I'm not going to do that. You may disagree, but that's not how government works. That's not how free market works. I'm not going to take your tax dollars and buy up land just to prevent people from using their land. That's not what I'm going to do. Yeah.
Last week, the county commission approved 3 large plats, each by a 4-3 vote. And there's some attorney, I don't know if there was a county attorney or not, but it said basically you have to vote for these. That's the law requires you to vote for these. Well, then why have a vote at all?
I agree. You're not going to get to disagree with me. There are counties that don't even put it on consent. The chairman signs them up in his office as they're done. Here's the thing. The attorney's saying that based on the context of the presentation. Final plats are final plats. There's absolutely no recourse or legal justification to try to use a final plat or declining a final plat to stop development. That ship has sailed. They've already been granted legally the development rights for that area. All a plat is a drawing. It's this survey that says you were approved to build 100 homes. This is the picture we drew that shows where those 100 homes are going to be. Hold on, I'm answer your question, then you can answer a follow-up. You ask a follow-up. So when they present us with their picture, and the only reason they do that is when someone goes to buy lot number 10, it has to have a specific legal description so it can get put on the back of the deed, so someone knows what survey that person's lot is. When they come to us, there's a statute, Florida 177, that says what a plat is, and then there's our land development code. So we have our legal.
So you're agreeing with me that there shouldn't be any vote at all?
Yeah, I think final plats should be administrative. If they adhere to
what if it had been voted down? What would have been the consequences?
The consequences, if they were voted down, and God willing, they get off this high horse and we can actually just move on with our lives, is we would go to court immediately. We would lose, probably just in simple summary judgment, which would be nice, at least save us a couple of bucks, or you a couple of bucks. We would have to pay our legal team to go defend it. We have to pay the other the opposing legal team. We have to pay their legal fees, and then they would manufacture whatever economic hardship they can come up with about contracts that they lost and delays and carry costs and interest on the loan that they would milk it for all it's worth in court, and they would win. And I said this in my Substack that went out yesterday.
So what's the fix?
The fix is
either being earlier or what?
No, there's no earlier. This is the proper timeline of how it's done. It's just I've been on this board for over 4 years. We have probably approved 100+ plats. Never have we even discussed or said the word plat in a meeting until December of this year. Charlotte County literally did a presentation last April. You can go find their PowerPoint presentation where they discussed entirely eliminating final plats from their agenda, even consent. They called it administrative. They called it a consent item, and they proposed eliminating it so when plats are finalized at the staff level, the chairman can sign it that day to expedite it going. There are people who are waiting to close on a lot to build their family home, their retirement home, and they can't close until that plat's signed. And sometimes we delayed that by a month. And then people who have a rate lock for their mortgage have to wait and risk losing their mortgages because they can't close on a lot because we haven't approved a plat. It is asinine. And the problem is it's causing too much noise and taking away from the good we're doing. There's a lot of good proposals. I mean, Commissioner Phelps, who's been pushing against the flats, just proposed having mandatory neighborhood meetings for every single application, which I brought up in the past and no one wanted to do. Commissioner Phelps brought that. That's a great proposal. That means every property that's going to come in front of this board is required to meet with the neighbors and explain what they're going to do. That didn't get enough attention. Why? Because there was a whole article about flats in the Sarasota Herald instead. We're losing focus on the good things we can do, the constructive, legal things we can do by playing games, just to appease some people and say, look what I'm going to do to fight. Let's fight by increasing the impact fees and getting the wetland buffers back and fixing our neighborhood meetings and fixing how we handle quasi-judicial hearings. That's what the public needs. That's what's going to make for more sensible growth in the future, not fighting worthless flats. They're never, ever going to die because four of us are always going to approve it because that's the law.
Just so you know, I don't read the Sarasota Herald.
Glad. You get 3 minutes.
George, I think you've been the best chair that this county's seen in a long, long time, so thank you very much. I'm still trying to make a suggestion as a policy change as I watch over the meeting.
Want to come up front, Doc?
No, that's all right, you can hear me, right? No,
Yeah.
Let's be short. When an item comes up and it's in a certain district, the other district commissioners should not say, I vote no, and then be second. I think it's disrespectful, and I'll bring you an example of flats, right? Okay, Carol, it's in your district. What do you think? Well, I'm voting down. That's all the public wants to know. But for the other commissioners to override her district when it's in her district, I think it's disrespectful. I think whichever district it is, you should give for that commissioner first, and it should be given some weight. The other commissioners should give some weight to that explanation from that district that subject matter is on. It can be done very easily. She got run over on those flat people. She was very frustrated. But I think it's more respectful if you say, look, girls, it's in yours, the flat. What are your thoughts? Oh, no, hell no, I'm not doing it. Okay, fine. Let's go to a vote. That's all I'm asking. Wherever that subject matter is, that commissioner should weigh in, yes or no, and it might change the mind of the other one. But it is that person's district. You should respect that.
Sure, I think using flats as an example is a bad choice, but okay. I don't know if flats was the right one to use as well, but that's actually an excellent idea. I will actually do that because I have discretion. I'll let the board know that during land use meetings, I will defer to the district commissioner for first dibs at speaking, so they can plead their case on their behalf. I will do that. It's a very good idea.
With the zoning, how many stories high can the buildings be?
That depends. It depends on what kind of building it is, depends on where that building is.
What makes
It can be anywhere from, we have some zoning that's single story max, and you go downtown Bradenton, which has nothing to do with me, that's an independent municipality, you can go up to 21 stories.
Well, this area is 20 acres, and they're gonna have 246 units. So I don't know how high and how wide, but it's 20 acres and 246 units.
For what, this particular property area?
Yes, that's the one on Bay Shore and 41. There's 20 acres. And I talked to zoning, and they said that they just, the day I got them, is the day that we voted on it. And 20, it's gonna be 246 units. So I don't know how high and how big the
Again,
buildings.
it really depends. If
That's
they're,
only 20 acres.
the acreage has nothing to do with it. You can buy 1 acre in downtown Bradenton and build 20 stories. You can buy 100 acres out East County and only build 2 stories. I mean, the acreage doesn't have a determining factor. It has to do with the zoning. It has to do with the area. If you're down by the airport, there's FAA regulations in terms
It's
of.
down by Pondview School.
Yeah, I can't speak specific to that. The short answer is all of our zoning is set that has different height. It also depends on what's next to it. If you have single family home versus commercial versus industrial, there's so many dynamics. I'd answer your question if I could. I just can't. Our zoning goes anywhere. For the county, traditionally our zoning will go anywhere from about 1 story to 8 to 10 stories. Within the cities, you can go higher than that, but it really depends on where it is and what it is to do. Recently, what you're seeing for multifamily is you don't see anything really going over 3 to 4. Usually it's 3 because once you get to 4 stories, you have to put in an elevator. Elevators are very expensive. That's why you see so many 3-story apartments. Once you get to 4, you usually see them try to stipulate trying to get to 5, but you're already putting the elevator forward.
Is Manatee County removing the fluoride from the water system?
We don't have fluoride in our water system, apparently.
I just told her that.
Yeah, that came up. That came up last week. Commissioner Ballard put that on the agenda for discussion purpose only at the time because when fluoride was put into our water, it was via ordinance. to get rid of an ordinance, you have to have an ordinance to rescind an ordinance. So it was for discussion purpose only. During that discussion, we were told that in 2021, I think it was, our system that puts fluoride into our water broke, and nobody told us or knew about it. I don't know. It opens up more questions than answers, honestly. But nonetheless, right now we have not been putting fluoride in the water. The only fluoride that has been in our tap water has been the naturally occurring fluoride that just comes in all water. The general, we haven't made a final decision of what we're doing, but it doesn't sound like the board's really interested in spending $2 million replacing the equipment to start putting fluoride in that most people don't seem to want anyway. I've been on the mind of, I truly don't care. This isn't my top of mind number one issue in life, but I said it on a podcast last week. If I don't care, then I'm going to default to less government. If I just don't care, then government putting in. What?
Is there still an ordinance in place?
There is still an ordinance in place. That's what's being worked on right now. We directed the county attorney to write an ordinance to rescind the ordinance, but that has not been brought back or voted on. This was just last Tuesday at God knows what time at night. But that ordinance is being prepared to be brought back. My guess is to be brought back end of February, beginning of March. But right now, we've told utilities to stand down, so nobody's actively replacing it. So that ordinance is kind of just a piece of paper to verify to future boards not to do something based on ordinance. It's not affecting your life today because there's nothing going into that. Beth. It is, and I do not believe they do, but I can't. I know Peace River Water Authority does not put fluoride in, so Sarasota, Charlotte, Northport, DeSoto, they don't have it, but they don't have water. They just buy it from Peace River and choose not to put anything into it. I do not believe it. I'm almost positive City of Bradenton does not, but don't quote me on it.
And then another question, other issues with the drinking water, where there's been algae blooms, water, oil notions and all that, is there any plan to like check it? Like, I don't know, help our water supply?
Sure. We check our water literally every day. We have people that do that for a living. We just replaced the microfiltration system last year. It's like literally one of the top in the state of Florida in terms of our filtration. Every now and then, when you get consistent 100-degree heat and other factors that come in, you're going to get some algae. At the end of the day, it's still surface water in a lake. Ducks swim in it. It is what it is. We clean it. I've not been under any impression, other than situations storm-related or pipe breaking related, that our water's ever been unsafe to drink. Sometimes it has a little smell because of certain environmental situations, but the only exceptions have been storms, especially here in the City of Bradenton, because they have a system that needs to be fixed, and I'm working with Mayor Brown on that, because they've had some issues where they've had inundation of seawater and things like that into their drinking water, which has caused real boiled water and bottled water situations.
Me or Wolf? First, George, you might want to join me in thanking the majority of the people in this room who helped get you elected, along with that fantastic board, and put all the developer folks away from us. We stood along folks in this room. And I mean, what a triumph that was. And I'm so excited to hear your readout of how this board is working under your leadership, and I'm thrilled. I was just reading this article in last week's Sarasota Herald Tribune about Bob McCann's proposal to do a moratorium on development until we absorb what we've already got going here, and two others joined him in that. Where do you stand on this, and how do you see that going forward? And also, what about the red tide that's hitting our shores again? Any thoughts on that?
Those could be two different questions. How am I going to incorporate that? As for the red tide, I haven't been briefed on it. I mean, there's always on and off red tide. I have not heard anything about it. Usually when it gets to a serious state, we start getting pretty regular briefings from the EOC. I haven't gotten one, so red tide's naturally occurring. I grew up in Sarasota. We had red tide back then. I'm guessing it's a standard red tide at this point in time. If it starts getting to a point where there's meaningful fish kills or no swim advisories, then I start getting daily briefings on it. Then I can speak more intelligently. As of now, I haven't gotten any, so I can't give you any update on it. As for moratoriums, I'm 100% against moratoriums. I don't speak in absolutes on anything. I don't believe there should be rent control. I don't think there should be moratoriums. I think it's lazy to do something like that. First off, you can't use the word moratorium without having some sort of qualifying word. Moratorium on what? Moratorium on development, moratorium on rezone, moratorium on permits. Where's our moratorium? I mean, that's such a broad thing. Like today, someone informally mentioned moratorium on permits. Go tell all the people who had all that storm damage. Why don't you go out to Cortez and tell them, sorry, we're 6 months of no permits. Good luck with your no roof on your manufactured home. It's asinine. Why? Because it's absolute. And when you have a moratorium, you do not get the discretion, although they seem to imply you do. I cannot say it's a moratorium except for you guys. It's a moratorium. Now you don't have a moratorium. Now you just have a board violating the law to pick and choose winners and losers. So instead of having a moratorium with an absolute, you come up with better, sensible solutions, like I talked about earlier. We have a board who's willing to do that, a creative board, willing to push back on the impact, willing to create better development practices, willing to push for better incentive where properties should be, like infill locations around the Soda Square Mall and on the corridors, instead of endlessly out east. We have a board willing to put the time and effort into things like conservation easements and wildlife corridors and things that can basically buffer Mayaca and down 62 because you create a no development boundary that'll stop that growth. We have a board that can do things. We can put the impact fees, the facility investment fees. We can stop giving away free density. Like, that's what people understand. A lot of the growth and density and development you've seen, like East River Ranch, Fort Hammer Commons, that's not projects that this board will ever approve, ever. Those are asinine projects that were such overreaches in terms of what they asked for. If you're allowed 3 houses per acre, I'm going to let you build 3 houses per acre. You're going to pay what it costs to build it. You may not like the check the bill when it gets there, but I'm going to let you build it because that's your property. But past boards have said you're allowed to build 3 houses per acre, so we're going to let you build 9. Yeah. And why don't you stop 500,000 square feet of commercial in front? And here's a study that says 500,000 square feet of commercial actually creates less traffic. Like, it was ridiculous. Ridiculous. That's what you are no longer going to see on this board. I can promise you, you're not going to see that on this board. And when you start getting a sensible board approving sensible developments and making them pay their fair share and build where they should be and working with the neighbors through neighborhood meetings and having to answer to the neighbors, a moratorium is not going to be as urgent of a request. It's only needed or talked about now because of past problems past boards have caused, which you are not going to see in the future. You are not going to see free density. You're not going to see free upzones. You're not going to see stipulations that allow people just freewheeling adjustments to our code. Developers and applicants are going to have to live by our code and live by our comprehensive plan. And if they do that, then we will let them build, presumably. I can't speak for the whole board. Again, my disclaimer, I'm only speaking for myself, not on behalf of the board. But I think that's going to have a meaningful impact. I think the stuff you're going to see approved going forward is going to be way different than the stuff we just defined the projects 7-0 up on 301 in Ellington last meeting, and that would have been approved last time. It would have. I promise you that project, as it was stated, would have been approved before November.
Good answer.
I think a lot of the secondary roads in the county are becoming, shall we say, a little tired. And I do give all credit to the pothole patrol. I think they do a wonderful job. But who controls what street and so on get totally resurfaced, and what's the budget for doing it?
Sure. I love this question. Now I can really get on my soapbox. Here's why roads suck, and I hate roads. Everyone knows I hate roads. I hate paving roads. I hate I hate widening roads. Here's why. Everyone cheers a new road. Everyone looks at that fancy 4 lanes that used to be 2 lanes. It was all congested. Guess what? First off, 6 months later, that 4-lane road is just as congested. Second, I now have to maintain 4 lanes instead of 2 lanes. I can build 4 lanes with impact fees from developers. I can't maintain anything with impact fees. I maintain those roads with your money. So all I do is temporarily create assets for the county, and 5 seconds later, it's a liability I'm reserving your money to fix. That's what we need to fix. That's why you can't have stuff. People want to talk about development further and further and further. I don't care. I know a lot of people do. People don't want development. The development itself isn't my problem. It's the cost to you to maintain that development further and further out there, because the developers may build the roads out there, but now it's your responsibility to maintain them. Your responsibility to widen them. Your responsibility to put the pipes in there. Your responsibility to build the park that those new residents want, the library those new residents want, the school you're new, and then you have to maintain that too. That's the problem with these things. So our roads are behind in maintenance because we don't have the money to fix the roads, nor do we have the labor to fix the roads, because the labor we do have is out building new roads for new people moving here. using fake impact fees that don't cover the cost of that road. So you're paying for that with the extra bonding we just did. Now we post pictures on Facebook bragging about $140 million. You just put your grandkids in debt for it. That's what we need to fix. We need to have more sensible solutions to infrastructure by putting people by our existing infrastructure, maintaining what we have instead of building what we want. And that's why I proposed, and I believe the board's going to be on my side on this thing. And I can tell you right now, there's like 5 people with a lot of applications that are not going to be. Impact fees being too low is bad. Impact fee credits are the worst, and they are gussied up with lipstick to make them sound like the greatest thing on the planet. When a developer builds a new development, they can build the infrastructure themselves and get an impact fee credit. So say, hypothetically, they owe $10 million in impact fees. Me as the board, sorry, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board. Me as a member of the board can take that $10 million and go fix your road that you've been waiting for a decade. I can go widen Canal. I can go widen Erie. I can come down here and fix the intersections at 27 and 27th. But they don't give me any of those impact fees because they build their own road for their own development for the benefit of their own residents that allows them to sell their houses for more. And then they call it a public-private partnership. And instead of giving me the impact fees to use where it's most needed in the county, I give them a credit so they pay no impact fees. And all they do is build their own infrastructure to increase the value of their own homes to make even more profit at your expense while your roads are still depleted someplace else. So I propose we shut down all impact fee credits, make every developer not only pay 100% impact fees, but give us the cash, a check for 100% of the impact fees. And this board, on behalf of the citizens, will decide the next most important road to fix with their impact fees. And once you do that, you are going to get more sensible infrastructure that can be maintained because we do not need to keep widening roads, making everything 4 lanes and 6 lanes and 8 lanes all over this town so someone can get someplace 5 minutes faster, and then we have to use your tax dollars to spend $20 million repaving that thing every 5 to 10 years because of the potholes. Yes.
The last meeting also discussed a rather controversial issue, probably controversial for the people in this room. But as a physician, I will just let you know, fluoridation not only helps teeth, it helps bones. It saved 100,000 hip fractures in elderly people in this country last year. So I'm inquiring whether it was a surprise to you that there's no fluoride in the water in Manatee County. That was a surprise to me.
Yeah, we had no idea. I don't think I don't know, but we did not. I do have a question here.
Why are there purple lights on the freeway? Are you guys rechanging the light?
Those are not ours. Those are DOT lights, and they're just effective lights.
They're what?
They're defective lights.
They're defective.
They're not. I think they're cool.
I don't know how
It kind of reminds me of like the college days of my dorm. You know, I get like a little poster. But there's no intention to them. They're just effective lights.
They don't put out the light. So, also, do you have any idea when the construction around the outlet mall is going to be finished?
Never. Which part? You talking about 301? You talking about 29? You talking about 60? Which one?
Right where you're turning to go to the outlet mall on 301.
Sure.
That whole area.
Last I talked to DOT, which was not that long ago, I was told, quote unquote, this year. They did not give me a definitive time. Because they're also doing it in conjunction with the intersection. They're doing it with the new exit ramp, entry ramps. Those aren't the same timeline. But I was told it was this year, and then they're moving on for some other stuff. But then what you're going to start seeing over there is the improvements to 60th, and then eventually the improvements to 29th, and the connection to Buffalo. That's why I'm saying there's a lot more that needs to be done over there. This is just the first stage, because that's the federal portion of it, and the local portion's kind of waiting for them to finish, so we don't cause too much disruption. Charlie.
Is there any state regulation that requires you for the timing of collection of impact fees to collect them when, let's say, when building is finished, or is front-loaded?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll just answer your question because I know where you're going with it. Yes, we are required by state statute that we can collect impact fees upon CO. We can collect facility investment fees when permits are pulled. So we can collect facility investment fees early because that allows us to put the utility systems in, the waters and sewers ahead of time. So that's why we're allowed to collect them on that timeline. But we do not collect impact fees until CO, and that's state statute to require that. Yeah.
I know that there are other means of fixing roads, and the 5-year plan is kind of, it seems like it's the standard, it's, 5 years you need to repave the road. There are road fixes that that can happen after 2 or 3 years, that's like 25% of the cost of a total repave, that will give that road another 3 to 4 years, depending on what the traffic load is. And I know that if we use primarily a paver that does one kind of paving, oftentimes they don't offer that as an option.
Sure, I'll try to answer some answer that I have a minute ago. What I will say, if you have information on that, I'll happily look at it. My only concern would be the only thing people hate more than paying for repaving roads is dealing with those repaving roads. When we repave roads, we have to cut down a lane. It's disruptive. There's also labor costs. There's only so many people that we hire. There's only so many Woodruff and Sons out there to continuously go around and repave every single road every 2 to 3 years. Not to mention have to shut down lanes and deal with it from an emergency standpoint and detour and stuff. If you have information, I'll happily look at it. If it makes sense and it's a way of saving money, I'm all for it. I would just be hesitant to continuously be repaving everyone's roads every 24 to 36 months. I think that would be more disruptive to people's lives than what the tax bill is. The tax dollars don't do. I think I have time for maybe one more question. Yes.
I have a question about the new administrative assistant that you hired.
Sure.
About the new administrative / legislative assistants. The first time I heard about them was reading in the newspaper last Monday. And I'm just curious as
You can say it here in the brief.
I don't know, it's something about one night.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just curious as to what the timing is as to when you decided to increase the number of administrative assistants from 4 to 7, and what are you supposed to be able to do to advertise those positions? Because I found out, hey, that was the position I wanted to apply for, I didn't know about it.
Sure. That was decided to have 7 positions 2 or 3 years ago. The resolution to create the 8 positions, like every other county has, was a couple of years ago. I believe it was before Mike and Amanda and Jason were even on the board. And we just never filled them because we decided at one point we would just share. So myself and Vanessa shared and Mike and Amanda shared when they got on the board. We had 4 of them. Everyone, it was 2 people per 8 plus the chair had their own. When the new commissioners came on, there was some request from them that they wanted their own aides. There was some discussion about getting aides out and having more involvement. You look at like Miami, everyone has like 3 aides per commissioner. They have a legislative, they have a commissioner aide, and they have basically just an administrative assistant. And so we're like, okay, that's ridiculous. But by having 1 aide, what we're working on is they're currently working on creating office space within existing libraries, not like building anything out structurally, but just cleaning up space and making it dedicated. So, for instance, Commissioner McCann's aide could be at the Lake Ranch Library 2 days a week and have office hours that people can go talk to and not have to go all the way downtown and find parking and go through 3 different locked doors to go ask a question about code enforcement or an issue. So it was a way of getting people out in front. We also get doubled up and tripled up on meetings and chamber events and ribbon cutting. So we felt it was a great way to increase our voice with the people and involvement with the community at a reasonable cost. So we're doing it. We'll see if it works. So far, all of the aides we've hired are solid aides. I'm happy with everyone's picks. Everyone pretty much had their own discretion. HR did notice all of the positions. They were single source though, so they didn't have to be noticed. So I can't guarantee if they all were. I wasn't involved in that process because myself, Commissioner Ron, and Commissioner Beard all had carryover aides from prior to all that. So I wasn't involved in whatever decision-making processes, interviews, resume reviews that the other 4 did. So I can't speak specifically to how that went down. But I know those job descriptions because I had to review the job description just so I could kind of opine since inexplicably after 4 years, I'm the senior most person on this board. One last question. Any last question or I'll shut this down. Anyone who hasn't asked a question, I'll answer your question after. I want to ask someone who hasn't.
Okay, one last thing. I'd like to tell you how emotionally great I am and what a great neighborhood it is, but Jack's going to holler at me if I go on that. So the last question is the 50-foot setback for the wetlands, like they just voted it down last year, and the mixed farm. What is your opinion on the mixed farm being sold to the county?
So
something I sort of talk about. It's not something I'm educated enough to give you a great answer on. The wetland thing, I'll answer first. Like if I had my email, I can give you a more definitive timeline. We've started the process of unwinding a number of mistakes that have occurred in the past 12 to 24 months. Whether that be impact fees, whether that be wetland buffers, we already previously unwound things like comments on social media, call-in comments, the historical sites, the beach parking. The wetland buffers has already started that process. We are going through the process of unwinding those right now. With unanimous 7-0 vote of the board, those are going to be restored back to the 50 feet. I do have a timeline. It's sometime this spring. Everything we've asked staff to do, they are falling over themselves to do. And all of the major things we've requested as a board are all scheduled to be completed before summer recess. Every single one. From impact fees to wetland buffers to the first round of the comprehensive plans to all of that, all prior to summer recess. And that's important. As for Nixon, again, that's more Commissioner Ballard's thing she's been focusing on. We don't get assigned something. It's more just different people grab hold. Like I'm dealing with the trail system. So if you ask some other commissioners, they can give vague answers, but not to the same extent I could. Commissioner Ballard, she's been focusing very heavily on Nixon. So she could speak more intelligently to it. It was something I thought was kind of just dead in the waters. We can't use the environmental land money for it. So we would have to come out of general funds or some other source of funds, park funds, wherever. The first I heard about something that intrigued me, however, was last week. Commissioner Ballard mentioned the possibility of creating a small library that would also include like STEM centers, things like that. When I first started talking about why we need such a large library on the water downtown, one of my arguments was it would be really great to have a lot of smaller pocket libraries in places where people want to use libraries. We're going someplace where you have internet connections and periodicals and places for the kids to learn after school is more beneficial. This is a great neighborhood for something like that. This is the kind of neighborhood here by Pride Park, and that would be great locations to have smaller, intimate libraries where you can just staff it with 1 or 2 people and provide things to a neighborhood. So that intrigued me. That creates a different dynamic because it creates a different funding source potential. So I'm going to defer it to Commissioner Ballard. I trust her when she does things like that. She comes up with really good ideas, and they've panned out pretty consistently. So I'll look forward to her bringing back a proposal that's something she thinks viable. And I'll be all that's the almost always money is the #1 part of everything because it's your money. At the end of the day, I don't have any money. It's all yours, and I have to be thoughtful on how I'm going to best spend your money. And if I think it makes sense, and I think it's going to improve your quality of life, then that's something I'll consider. And that's what's being looked at right now. But I'll defer a definitive answer of my opinion until I get a more definitive response from Commissioner Ballard and her proposals, and I'm looking forward to that. All right. Well, thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.